Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Benjamin Chong Alfares with the top stories in the global economy. On today's magazine, China's booming car industry, followed by a discussion with Asia business expert Tal Reshef, and Nepalese guides on Mount Everest abandon climbing season. First, the headlines. The yuan dropped to a 16-month low as China's manufacturing figures hinted at further economic weakness. The preliminary Purchasing Managers Index from HSBC was 48.3 in April, contracting for a fourth consecutive month. China's currency dropped as low as 6.2465 to the dollar in early trading. The ongoing slowdown in growth increases the likelihood of a mini stimulus package comprised of spending on railways, housing, and tax relief. As the Passover holiday drew to a close, Israel Airports Authority estimated a 25% increase in international airline passengers compared to last year. Passenger traffic peaked at the airport the day before Passover began, with 63,000 passengers in transit on 400 international flights. A number of airlines added capacity to meet the demand, as about 8,000 planes passed through Israel during the holiday travel period. This year, the most popular destinations for Israelis traveling abroad included Turkey, the United States, Russia, Italy, and France. The United States' aid pledge to Ukraine falls far short of its financial commitment to Russia for unpaid gas bills. U.S. Vice President Joe Biden told Ukrainian leaders the U.S. would provide help so that Russia can no longer use energy as a weapon. Biden announced $50 million in aid to develop the country's gas reserves, explore alternative energy, and improve efficiency. But Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said Ukraine would have to prepay for natural gas unless it starts paying down its $2.2 billion debt. Modernizing Ukraine's energy infrastructure and attaining supply independence would take 16 years and require $234 billion in investment. Sales of previously owned homes in the U.S. fell for a third consecutive month in March. Closings fell 0.2% to a 4.59 million annual rate, the lowest level since July 2012, as rising prices and a lack of inventory discouraged would-be buyers. Purchases were down 8.5% compared with the same month last year. Property values have climbed faster than wages, putting ownership out of reach for many Americans. The median price of an existing home climbed 7.9% from March 2013 to $199,000. Housing's slow recovery is also felt by mortgage lenders, many of which have cut staffing. Coffee prices surged to a 26-month high as the worst Brazilian drought in decades ravaged plants earlier this year. The global harvest is projected to fall short of demand by 11 million bags, equal to a world deficit about the size of production in Colombia alone. Coffee futures jumped as much as 8.3%, driving volatility to the highest since 2000. Prices have surged more than 90% this year owing to the drought, while excess rain now threatens to further slow the nation's harvest and reduce crop quality. As China's middle class continues to grow, so does car ownership, but Chinese cars still lag far behind their international competitors. Here's a report by Joan Citruk and Daniel Roth.
It seems that nothing can stop the growth of China's automotive sector, not even the government-mandated traffic restrictions put in place to curb pollution. Demand in big cities and small towns is growing as households pick up second cars. According to some, 22 million units were sold in 2013, a 13% increase compared to 2012.
Compared to former years, we see that the growth is slowing down. But I'm still very optimistic about the Chinese market, particularly mid and long term, that this market will develop further and will also give us, as a high-end luxury brand, good potential here.
The main beneficiaries of this boom are foreign automakers who now control over 60% of the market. In 2013, Audi's presence in China increased by 21% and Mercedes by 48%. The market in China is diversifying too. Consumers are racing for SUVs, 4x4s, and other sport compacts.
Ever since I started driving in SUVs, I don't think it's possible for me to drive other cars.
The The French brand Peugeot launched its new 408 sedan and hopes to expand its profits in China. Last year, the company sold more than 550,000 units, an increase of 26.1%.
I feel like Peugeot cars have been well suited to the Chinese market for the last couple of years, and that's above all because of the price. They're not in the highest price range, and they're not in the lowest.
In 2014, experts predict that the automobile industry will grow by 8 to 10% in China, a country that is quickly becoming a paradise for foreign manufacturers.
And we're joined now by Asia business expert Tal Reshef for a discussion on the car industry in China. Tal Reshef, thanks for joining us again.
With pleasure.
So, from what I understand, I mean, the China car industry is booming. However, Chinese people aren't buying so many cars that are domestically made. What is going on here? What's the problem?
Well, it's a problem of quality. China is the biggest market of cars.
Yeah.
They've purchased last year about 24 million cars. Out of them, I don't think the 10% were Chinese-designed cars.
I believe about 1.2 million cars were actually made by Chinese manufacturers.
Absolutely.
Which is a teeny amount.
Yeah, it's a tiny amount, and it's not happening only in the car manufacturing, it's all over the industry. When Chinese are entering into an area that requires
expertise
and technology and world branding, it takes them time. Now, there are some domains by which they've already done it, like the speed trains, for instance, like internet services, for instance. But if you go back to the moment where it started, they lagged behind. It takes them time. And here this is the same. I mean, from year to year, the number of cars that are designed and manufactured in China is growing, yet not enough for conquering this area, mainly because they don't have yet the experience and the know-how.
And the thing that really interests me here is, you know, for many, many years, you've had big companies, multinational corporations going into China trying to make money and falling on their face, you know, or complaining about copyright infringement, et cetera, et cetera. Yet this is the other side of the coin, where the Chinese have gotten these big companies in, but they can't quite get the transfer of knowledge going where it benefits them. It's interesting. What exactly is going to make the change for them? Where is it's not such a simple switch for them?
No, it's not so simple, because even if we take a company like Geely, which has purchased some years ago Volvo company. Okay, so you purchase a company, then what? Are you going to copy Volvo and produce another Volvo? By using what? The same manpower? You need the manpower for Volvo. It is not that easy, and it takes time. If we want to see what's going on and what will happen, we can take the example from other industries and to see that they've entered, they have acquired technologies, sometimes they've acquired companies, but from that moment until the moment that they produced in high technology that can meet the world demand and have a world branding like Huawei and higher and Hisense.
Keep up with competition, presumably, as well.
It takes time.
And in terms of innovation, even more so.
Yeah, they have a problem of innovation.
Right.
They have a problem of lack of experience and lack of technologies. This, by the way, points the light on the cooperation between China and Israel, because Israel is not a big market, not a big producer, but has a lot of innovation, including in the car industry. So the cooperation between China and Israel can be very interesting for this progress.
But when it comes to the issue of manpower, I mean, during the financial crisis, when companies like GM, all these other car industries were falling on your face because of the pressures, surely the Chinese could have hired a whole bunch of experts from the West who would have happily taken, you know, a lot of money. Why didn't that happen? Or is it more than just hiring, you know, one or two experts?
Well, I don't have exact details and knowledge about it, because this is confidential, as we can expect. Those things are happening not only from the Chinese side, but by anybody. General Motors is stealing workers and experts.
Right. We actually see a chart now of the top 10 Chinese auto manufacturers.
Yeah.
Very interesting to actually see their unit sales per company. These names generally are just not well known outside of China, correct?
There will be. There will be. If you go back 10 years, nobody in the West knew anything about Huawei, about Haier and Hisense. Today we know them. In 10 years more, we will know about those names, about Dongfeng and about Geely.
Now we know these cars are sold, maybe 1 million is sold in China. Where else are they sold?
A little bit, in little quantities. They are sold in Southeast Asia and in Africa, but this cannot be described as a penetrating into the world market. Not
Is
yet.
it fair to say that these cars have not been sold in markets like the US because the quality is not good enough for the US?
First of all, they don't have quality that can match the American and European manufacturers, and Japanese, of course. Second, they don't yet have the branding. Branding is very important. People get attached to the image of their car.
Right.
So when you're buying something with a name that nobody knows, this is not branding, and people are not ready to pay for that.
I see. Well, Tal Reshev, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're joined now by Daniel Roth for a discussion on the Sherpas on Mount Everest who are threatening to cancel climbing season. Daniel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, for a more sobering subject here, the Sherpas on Mount Everest.
Yeah, last
tell
week
us?
on April 18th, 16 Sherpas were killed when a chunk of ice, the size it's been described as a Beverly Hills mansion, fell and truck-sized ice pieces hit a camp of about 15 people, and 16 people were killed. 3 probably will never be found, their bodies. And in the wake of this, there's been incredible anger and
What's the importance of the Sherpas?
So basically,
The Nepalese guides, essentially.
yeah, so you're talking about a nearly 9,000 meter summit, and it's impossible to reach without the Sherpas. Sherpas are actually an ethnic group in Nepal,
Right.
And from this ethnic group, there are these experts in climbing, and it's basically impossible to really reach the summit, to embark on the climb, and they're the core of the Everest economy, if you will. Mind you, they get paid on average about 10 times less than Western guides get paid. Oftentimes they're guiding the same groups, and literally they're carrying all of the weight of these groups, and they're getting paid 10 times less than Western guides.
How much do they get paid?
Somewhere around $5,000 for the season,
For the whole season.
for a 2 to 3 month season. Around this time is when the season starts, and it goes in through the spring and early summer.
Okay, I understand they made a certain list of demands from here on. I mean,
Yeah.
what are these demands? Can you give us some more information?
So the government actually answered yesterday with some agreements to some of these 13 demands, and the top of the list is insurance. The
Okay.
insurance that currently they have is inadequate, just over $4,000 for death coverage that goes to families. And
$4,000.
yeah,
That's less than a season earning.
right, and this is what goes to the family in cases of death, and $575 in medical coverage.
Right.
It's really, really inadequate, and they were asking for double of this.
I think we have a reaction from the government on this.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Today, the Nepal Mountaineering Association, the Trekking Agencies Association, and others met with me and discussed the report we submitted yesterday to the Secretary and the government and responded to the report positively.
Okay.
So to be clear, because it's not exactly revealing much, and
No.
and one thing to note is this is an ongoing story. They have till the 28th, the
Right.
government, to answer before the Sherpas officially say that they're canceling the season. Though AFP has already reported that it's
They
done.
have definitely canceled it.
Yeah.
Now they're doing this essentially out of respect. I mean, I read somewhere that they don't actually want to even put foot on this mountain that essentially took 16 lives in a tragic accident. Now the one thing I want to understand, okay, so we understand that Sherpas only make about $5,000 for the whole season. Obviously, the people that go to climb Mount Everest, they're not average people. And it's probably a big attraction for Nepal. They stand
Right.
to lose a lot of money. It's really in the government's interest to do something here, isn't it?
Right. So the government actually makes about $10,000 off fees. Each climber pays about $10,000 to the government, and a lot. It's $3 million a year that's injected into the economy.
Right.
And it usually just disappears. There's a lot of corruption in the government, and they have a new PM who's vowed to change this, but there's a long way to go. And so, the cost of living is less, but it's still incredibly high. And the risk, the cost of living is less than, say, in New York, but it's still incredibly expensive to live, like anywhere. And people need to make money, and people need to live. And, the risk is such that hundreds of people have died doing this in the last 50 or 60 years, and you're really talking about a really dangerous job that people are just not paid enough to do, and they're not given enough insurance to do. And that's really the issue at hand.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Daniel Roth, for giving us some more information on the Sherpas on Mount Everest. That takes us to the end of this edition. Thank you very much for watching. Please send us your comments, and do join us again tomorrow.